Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome back, dear learners, in this course of architectural thesis. My name is Dr. Vishal Chettry and I am working as an assistant professor in the Department of Architecture, Planning and Design at IIT Varanasi. So till the previous presentation, we had focused on the different set of drawings that are presented during the architectural thesis. But now when it comes to presenting the same set of drawings and information related to the literature, case study and site analysis, so how should be those details presented in the sheet layout? So that is what has to be understood, because the only information about the technical drawings is not sufficient to convey or to put it in the sheet. So we have to understand the sheet composition or sheet layout, at least for effective communication of our ideas to the examiner. So in this regard, so let us now look into the content of this presentation, where we will focus on the sheet composition or sheet layout for the design purpose. So we'll start with a recap. We'll understand about the principles of sheet composition, understand the hierarchy, balance, alignment and rhythm in the layout, strategies for organizing the drawings, text and graphics, visual storytelling across multiple sheets, common mistakes and layouts, do's and don'ts in thesis presentation, and then the conclusion of this presentation will be discussed. So to give you a recap of what we had covered in the previous presentation, it was related to the working drawing. So working drawing defines the accurate representation of important building parts. So all the work, because working drawing are the set of drawings that are generally prepared to exhibit the details about the project. So your floor plan may not be able to showcase the relevant details as it is shown in the working drawing. So there is a difference between a double line floor plan and a working drawing floor plan is the amount of details that goes in the preparation of or to exhibit the details of the floor plan. So the tile layout, the presence of any loft or any internal overhead spaces, all these are to be represented in the working drawing, along with the proper dimensioning of the openings and the other aspects that are there in the floor plan, such as if you have created niche within the wall, so how and where it is to be exactly located. So these informations are basically shown, along with the details about the tiles layout. So how is the tiling done within the floor, so that is also highlighted in the working drawing, set of working drawings, especially in the floor plan. So construction details specify precise material and the assembly information for the building elements. Selecting scale and drawing conventions ensures that the drawings are very presented with clarity and technical accuracy. Layout of building services integrates electrical, HVAC, sanitation, water supply, interiors and landscape into the design documentation. So the principle of sheet composition and layout design starts with the when we compose our information in a sheet. So it is always some basic principles of design has to follow the sheet composition. That is, the first is hierarchy. So you have to prioritize the important elements like titles or key graphics. So how these informations are to be presented with using different colors, the size of the font and all these becomes important in this case. So next is balance, that is ensures the visual equilibrium on the sheet through symmetrical, asymmetrical or radiance balance composition that is adopted in the sheet layout. Next is alignment. So the format or the exact boundary that you have selected. So can your drawings be aligned with respect to those boundaries? So that also you can think of. Next is rhythm, establish visual flow, guiding the viewer's eye across the sheet using repetition and spacing. So rhythm is very important element because it guides the movement within the sheet. So how you can direct the viewer from one part of the sheet to the other part of the sheet. So how it is to be done? It is through these different principles that has been just discussed now. So let us now understand these principles in detail. So in case of hierarchy, it refers to the arrangement of elements in a way that indicates their importance relative to one another. So this can be achieved through size, color, positioning and the contrast. So key elements include when you compose or when you think of hierarchy within the sheet, preparation is the title, the main title. So it is always will be in larger text than the other text that are there within the sheet. So that is what brings hierarchy to the drawing. So it will obviously catch our attention to the title because it is very essential for anyone to understand what is the topic on which this design is based on. So to grasp that attention, you need to highlight the title of the project, and the in other relevant information will then proceed in the ahead. So the color also plays an important role in this. Along with this, the key graphics should also be most prominent. Then the visual weight, like larger items, bold text and high contrast visuals naturally draw our attention. So by these mediums, you can actually attract the attention of viewers towards the specific first thing that one should look into the sheet. Then in case of prioritization, ensure that the most important information appears first, such as the main plan or an overall perspective of the project, followed by secondary details like sections, elevation or other annotations within the sheet. Next is balance. It is the distribution of visual weight across the sheet to achieve a sense of stability. So balance can be achieved through symmetry, asymmetry or radial positioning of the different objects within the sheet. So types of balance includes symmetrical, asymmetrical and the radial balance. So some ideas are being shown here in the image by which you can present your drawings within the sheet. Alignment, it is the arrangement of elements along the common edges or the axis or grid lines that you have incorporated in the sheet. So the proper alignment creates a sense of organization, making the layout feel cohesive and intentional. So what are the types of alignment? Grids and guides, alignment of drawings and the text alignment. So your text can be aligned to the grids or guides, or the drawings can be aligned to the overall the frame that you have adopted for the sheet. So based on this, you can align your drawings and text as per the drawings and the format of the sheet. Next is rhythm. Rhythm in layout design refers to the visual flow and movement created by repeating elements. So often we use rhythm in our architectural drawings, but the same idea has to be used while preparing the sheets for the presentation, because it should rhythm should be used in such a way that it guides our attention in the sheet. So what is the first thing that one should look into the sheet? Thereafter, what are the other set of information that that has to be looked in detail in the sheet in a particular order. So that is actually guided by the rhythm that is there in the sheet that is followed. Then what are the common strategies for organizing drawings, text and graphics? So in case of these things, the common strategies that one can use is a consistent grid system. So that means you divide your sheets into grids and then you present your information in a specific grid in a grid wise manner. So you can do that. Group related elements together, so you can group or club different aspects related to a study together in one corner, and then likewise for other studies in other corner. So that also can be explored. prioritize the most important element. So whatever is the important element in that particular sheet. For example, if you are drawing, if you are presenting a case study, so within that the floor plan or the details about the building becomes focus area. So that plan has to be enlarged, and the other drawings or other details or description can follow it after. So that has to be done in case of sheets. So and then use layers to separate the information, establish a consistent graphic style. Labeling and annotation always help understand the drawing, and it becomes self-explanatory. There is no explanation required in case if you are not there at that point of time, and if there is someone who is interested to look into your sheet during exhibitions. So your drawings has to be self-explanatory in that sense. So let us look into all these strategies in detail. So the first was as discussed in the previous slide, using a consistent grid system. So a grid system helps structure and align elements uniformly across the sheet. So if you have a grid that you follow consciously or subconsciously, you can align your drawings in that way. So it will visually guide the different elements that one has to look into the sheet one after the other. Then next is grouping related elements together. So if you are doing a case study, all the drawings related to that case study can be grouped together, and then a brief description can be presented at the end or side in the side part of the sheet. So it is up to you how you would like to arrange the information. But if you could group all the common elements together, then you could you could actually inform the examiner or the viewer very clearly and describe the projects in detail. Then next is prioritizing the most important elements, like arranging content based on the importance and flow of the design narratives. The most important or core element should be prominent and easily accessible to the viewer. So whatever is the core idea that has to be highlighted in detail, that for this either you can use bold text or very contrasting colors to catch the attention of the viewer. Then next is using layers to separate information. Organizing content into layers helps keep complex information digestible by separating different categories of data. So you can present it in form of layer as shown here with all the detail drawings. Establish a consistent graphic style. So the font color, font size that you have used in the sheet or the backdrop can be it can be uniform across the sheet, so that there is a consistent style that binds all the drawings or all the sheets in a holistic way. So that also should be prioritized in this case. Then next is labeling and annotation. So proper labeling and annotation has to be followed, so that you ensure that the viewer understands the details of each drawing very clearly, and there is no confusion between what the viewer has perceived and what you actually meant through the drawings. Next important elements in case of sheet layout is the visual storytelling that has to be followed across multiple sheets. So when you prepare sheets, there will be in thesis multiple number of sheets, at least 10 to 12 sheets will be prepared in A1 size sheets. So there has to be some kind of order in the presentation of the sheet, or else the main idea that you want to showcase during the presentation will not be communicated clearly. So that is why visual storytelling becomes very important, and you can use so it generally happens through drawings, graphics, text and layouts to communicate a narrative that guides the viewer through the design process. In presentation, the goal is to convey the essence of the work in a way that it is both engaging as well as informative. So you can see here how a visual storytelling is actually attempted. So initially we show some floor plans, then we highlight the floor plan with detail about with respect to the site conditions, and then the elevation and sections of the drawings are presented along with some other sheets in detail. So when working across multiple sheets, it is crucial to maintain a cohesive narrative that seamlessly connects each sheet with each other, so that it doesn't look like these sheets are being prepared by different set of persons. It should bind all these information together and then present a story for the entire work that you have done. So for visual storytelling, there has to be you have to follow sequential narrative. So organize sheets in a sequence that tells the story of the design process. Example, you start with the concept, then you start with the single line floor plan, how it is developed based on the zoning or bubble diagram. Then you show the details about double line floor plan and the other details which will follow, like elevation, section, and the other detailed drawings. Flow between the sheets, ensure there is a visual or conceptual connection between the consecutive sheets, so that you maintain similarity in texture or in color or the line style and annotation techniques that is followed. So there has to be uniformity in these aspects. So if you have followed a certain text size or font style for a particular sheet, so the same style has to be repeated in all of your sheets, so that you bind the information into a single set of work. Cohesive design, maintaining consistent font, color and graphic style across all sheets, it ensures a visual harmony within the in the presentation. Then the contextual flow, use context drawings to provide clarity. In case of site plan, you try to add the details about the neighboring sites. So what are present and what are different types of land use that can be understood from this information. Along with that, you also showcase the sectional view of the entire site to understand the relationship of the building with respect to the surroundings in a very which brings clarity to the design intent. So what are the common mistakes that one should avoid when creating an architectural presentation? Effective layout design holds very importance. So sometimes what happens, you do your work very diligently, but then when it comes to present the same set of work, if your layout is not interesting, or if you are not able to communicate the design through the presentation of sheets very effectively, then somewhere the disconnect between the intent of your work as well as the presentation gets there is a mismatch between these two, and that is why the juror may not be convinced with your work. So when you present your drawings, so you should be careful that it is being communicated very effectively, and that is only possible if the sheet layout that you have adopted is very efficient and very interesting to look into. So not interesting always in terms of color or font style that you use, but the order of presentation, since we have learned different aspects related to sheet composition. So if you follow these important instructions, so you will be able to communicate these ideas very effectively to the jurors. So the organization of the content, the use of visuals and the application of design principles are very critical while presenting the information. Then let us now look into some important do's that you can follow in your sheet preparation. So do maintain a clear focal point, focus the viewer's attention on most important design elements, be consistent with typography, use similar font across the sheet so that there is uniformity in the font style that you have used. Also do leave adequate margins and space, so that it doesn't ensure very crowded or it avoids clutter into your drawing. Do use high quality images and drawing so that it doesn't pixelate when it is printed, and the details about the technical drawings are communicated very clearly. So the scale, proportion, all these informations are has to be correct. If you use it is only possible if you use high quality images and drawings for your sheet. Then there are some don'ts that you should not repeat in your presentation. So first is don't overcrowd the sheet. So as you have seen here how different informations are actually grouped together to convey the idea, so that actually creates clutter. So don't use too many fonts or color, avoid using different colors within the sheet. So try to maintain a similarity in the font color. So you can actually look for similar shades, or you can go for a monochrome set of colors, colors for your sheet presentation. So use color palette very judiciously. Don't ignore the scale. Ensure that the drawings are scaled correctly for clarity and comprehension of your ideas. Don't neglect the readability. Ensure that all the text that you have added or drawings that you have added can be viewed from at least 2 to 3 meters, at least 2 meter, very clear, with clarity. Then to conclude of this presentation, what we have learned in this presentation is that effective sheet composition is essential for clear communication of design ideas. Combining text, graphics and drawings, principles such as hierarchy, balance, alignment and rhythm guides the composition. Visual storytelling across multiple sheets is essential to create a cohesive narrative among the different sheets, and it actually binds the work that you have done, and it gives a representation that a single person is involved in the entire work, and it also engages viewers and explains the design process very clearly. Proper organization and grouping of drawings, text and graphics improves readability, and it also helps you in describing the content of your presentation very clearly. Sometimes during jury or during review, if your informations are cluttered and if the sheet layout is not done correctly, then there is a mismatch, or the visual flow in the sheet is not achieved very properly. So that has to be avoided. Attention to common mistakes as highlighted should be avoided, and some best practices that is discussed in the presentation should be followed for preparing the sheet layout. And then these are some wrap up activities that you can complete at the end of this lecture. So you can explain what visual storytelling is to a friend who have never studied design, and if the person is understanding the ideas, then you are in a correct direction. Or you can also show the work that you have done to your friend and get his viewpoint, whether the way you have composed the drawings is in a proper order or not, how to keep jury's attention when showing many sheets in order. So that also, the answer to this question is already there in the presentation. So try to recollect or revisit those slides. Choose one thing that makes your sheet very strong. So what would that be? Just try to highlight those factors. Then these are some resources which you can refer for enhanced understanding on the architectural thesis. So in our next presentation, we will cover the details about the figures and charts, how it is to be presented in the drawing. So the effective use of figures and chart are discussed. Integrating diagrams, infographics and flow charts are also discussed. Annotating plans, sections and illustrating them in the sheet. So how it is done, so that is discussed, along with applying the visual clarity and professionalism with thoughtful font and color choices, how that should be adopted in preparing the sheet layout, that will be discussed, along with some discussion on the balancing visuals with explanatory text. So what should be the percentage of text and visuals within the sheet will also be highlighted in detail. So with this, I'd like to conclude my presentation, and I hope the understanding on the sheet layout would be very helpful for you to compose your sheets in your architectural thesis or in architectural design courses. So I'd like to thank you for your patience listening, and hope to meet you in the next presentation.